Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday. Usually we'd be sitting here doing the game review to whichever game Everton had gone out and won in the Premier League during the past couple of days or so. But obviously our game against Aston Villa was postponed on Sunday, so we've got no game review to talk about. But me and Tom sat down last week and we thought, you know what can we sit down, what can we talk about, what can we discuss to do with Everton Football Club over this sort of week or so period where we're not playing any football. So there's, it's open to a lot of opportunities for different styles of content. And we thought the January transfer window, probably not going to do much business in this window, which we knew prior to Marcel Brands' comments at Thursday's AGM. So we said, let's talk about transfers. Where do we need to improve? Who could we potentially bring in to take us to that next level? Probably going to be next summer because, like I said, of Marcel Brands' comments about the January transfer window, and we sort of already knew anyway that Everton don't usually do business in January. But this sort of topic was further become more relevant and more apparent to talk about after last night. If you didn't see last night, it was something that caused a lot of discussion on social media, a lot of discussion on Twitter. Basically, Roy Keane had a couple of things to say. Nearly said Robbie Keane then. It's not Robbie Keane, he was the one who played for Tottenham. It was Roy Keane, ex-Manchester United, was on Sky Sports last night. I think it was after the Liverpool-Manchester United game, and he was asked by David Jones, I think, as the presenter, who else could be in this title race, because they just watched Man United and Liverpool draw 0-0 again. Not a brilliant game of football, not a lot happened in it, and David Jones put to the panel, who do you think could challenge for this title other than those three teams, basically United, Liverpool and City as it was, who were playing after that. David Jones mentioned Everton, he mentioned Leicester. And basically Roy Keane went on this couple of minute spiel about how brilliant Leicester are and how brilliant Brendan Rodgers is and how he thinks they could potentially challenge and this, that and the other. And then he went on to Everton and he basically said, forget Everton. And I think he followed it by explaining that, it's a bit of a transition period and Everton have still got, a lot more quality to add to the team. And I don't think any Evertonian really disagreed with what Roy Keane was saying in terms of about Everton and saying Everton aren't going to challenge for the title or aren't going to win the Premier League title, because I think we all sit here and as great as it would be, and look, we are only 5 points off the current, 5 points off the top, a couple of points off the current champions. So in a very realistic term, if this was towards the back end of the season, we would literally be in a title race because we're only a couple of wins away from being at the top of the league. But I think we all sort of understood what, Keane was saying about, look, Everton probably aren't going to be there. We've got a lot more quality to add to the team. And that's right. And I don't think anybody disagreed with that. The sort of thing that didn't sit fondly with us as Evertonians and myself, and I know Tom tweeted about it, I got on Twitter to talk about it, and a load of other Evertonians did, was the fact that he mentioned Leicester in such a high vein, and they've got a fantastic manager and they could be in there and they could be challenging. This is a Leicester team who are only 3 points ahead of Everton. Everton have got a game in hand and we beat them at their ground a couple of weeks ago. We actually play Leicester our next Premier League game now, obviously after the Aston Villa postponement, so it makes this game even bigger than it was, prior to last night. And there was a lot of Evertonians saying, look, we probably won't win the league, we probably won't challenge for the league, but that clip in itself should be used for motivation to those players in that dressing room. Just play Keane saying, forget it, Everton, forget it, no chance. Just play that to the players before every game and make them go out and prove people wrong. And like I said, it wasn't particularly what he said about Everton that I think people disagreed with. It was more the fact that he spoke about a team who are only 3 points ahead of Everton, given the fact that we've got a game in hand in such a vein. But when it comes to Everton, it was like, no, not a chance. So I thought we'd sit here, myself and Tom today, and talk about who Everton need to bring in players-wise. Who do Everton need to sign in order to take us to that next level, in order to have us up there challenging for the Premier League, challenging in the UEFA Champions League. Because Carlo Ancelotti has said this as well, by the way. I know a lot of people were quick to jump at Roy Keane, but Carlo Ancelotti said only a couple of weeks ago, look, there's 4 better teams in the Premier League than Everton. There's 4 teams that are better than us, so will we finish in the Champions League? Yeah, it's a possibility, but it's going to be very, very difficult because he still thinks we're not there yet. We need to add more players, we need to add more quality. And, when Carlo Ancelotti said that, everyone went, yeah, fair enough, you're right, we do need to add more quality. We've seen that in certain games this season. So me and Tom thought we'd sit down and basically talk about a few players that we could bring in that would add that quality to take us to that next level, that would add that quality to have us up there challenging at the top end of the table. I mean, Tom, just briefly before we go into talking about any of the players that we've just been speaking about and that we've mentioned, to say that Everton are even within that conversation at the moment with the current squad and where we were 12 months ago, you wouldn't have, if I'd have said to you 12 months ago, Tom, in this time in 12 months, the Sky Sports panel will be talking about Everton as possible title contenders and will be only 5 points off the top with a game in hand, this, that and the other. You'd have probably just ended the Skype call and text me saying, do us a favour and come back to me when you're not chatting out your arse. It's. I know we've spoken about this briefly before, but it's absolutely magnificent what Carlo Ancelotti has done for this football club already, hasn't it? And I do want to talk about Marcel Brands a little bit later on in this team and his quote at the AGM about the squad size and reducing the squad size, but being able to actually increase the worth of the squad, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But just on a base level with Carlo Ancelotti, to say that, you could argue we are challengers, because just because you're challengers doesn't mean that you're going to win it, but 5 points off the top, you're up there, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I took onus of it because I was like, it weren't just Everton that sort of, I thought it was a bit of a daft comment. I thought just Tottenham as well. Yeah. Tottenham got Harry Kane and Son there, and they got a very, very good manager. Whether you think he's a negative manager or not, he's a very, very good manager who's got 30 odd plus trophies in his cabinet. Yeah. So, and plus, he's won this league multiple times. Yeah. So you can't really dismiss Tottenham in such a sense that he did. You look at Leicester. I think Everton have got a better team and a better squad than Leicester. Yeah. Because when you look at, in terms of if Leicester lose Vardy, who have they got?
Yeah, spot on.
You look at James Maddison. Who have they got then to replace James Maddison?
They've been very lucky in terms of injuries, haven't they? Especially with Jamie Vardy in recent years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But he even pulled up the other day. Last night. Not last night. Against Southampton. Yeah. So, if he gets injured, they have literally got nobody. I know this is what I'm saying in terms of you're looking at people want backup strikers in this window. If Everton go get a backup striker on the level of what Iheanacho is, what's the point?
Yeah.
You're looking at availability and things like that. Tolson's not anything, but I don't even think Iheanacho is. You look at what Liverpool are even bringing on Origi. Shaqiri, they're not in the best in terms of bringing players off a bench.
Yeah, impact substitutes.
So I think but just going off a comparison of Leicester and then just totally dismissing Everton was just so bizarre. We beat Leicester away this season. Yeah. We're a team that we're a full strength team, by the way. No. So to just say, oh yeah, Leicester have got a better chance. It's just. And I think he's right. You're looking at he was right about the squad. Yeah. Because he was saying in terms of Everton's squad depth, I think they'll fall away. If the case, I'd agree if in the case of that James, Dean, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Allen, Iwobi, Decore. Yeah. You've just rattled off 7-8 players there. So if they all got injured.
Then we would.
Of course, yeah. Of course, but this is what my tweet was today. The Piv Andy put out tweet who would you actually want this window? Who's available for a loan? And I just put none. I just say give as much resources as you possibly can to the medical staff and the backroom staff to keep our top players fit. Yeah. If you keep our top players fit, top six is more than easily capable. With 7. I know we've only played 47% of the league so far in terms of games wise. We're 6th. Yeah. We're 5 points off top with a game in hand. Everton's game against Leicester is the first one back for Everton. Yeah. Now, that to me is massive. If Everton go beat Leicester and then they've got Newcastle at home, that's 6 points in a week. Yeah. If you had 6 points. If you had 6 points to Everton's current total now, they go top by a point. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is how tight it is. So it's nuts. And listen, I don't believe, as of yet, Everton are in terms of title contenders. But if Everton are there still with maybe 3 or 5 points with 10 games to go, of course they're title contenders. Yeah. Of course they are. Yeah. It's just. and I hate to say it's luck.
Yeah.
It's just luck. It'll just be luck. Whoever wins that league, in terms of United, City, Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, Everton, Chelsea. I don't think. I mean, you could add Southampton and West Ham, but I just don't think they've got the team, a good enough team. I know they beat us, but I think Southampton will just start falling away, and I think Moyes done a terrific job with West Ham, but they just haven't got the players. So that top 7, I don't think will change. It's just down to luck now. Where listen, Everton might have a bit of luck now because the injuries are depleting. They're sort of getting to a point where everyone's going to come back.
Yeah.
So I mean, listen, Everton's best 11 are top 6, aren't they? Are top 7, but whether they can get them on the pitch for the next 21 games is a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. That's it, exactly. And you look at even Everton at the moment, picking up the wins against Chelsea, Leicester, you just spoke about, Arsenal, Sheffield United, even recently against Wolves, and we haven't had a full strength team for a long time. You look at the players that are out. We've had Alan out for a number of weeks now. Luca Dean had been out for 5 or 6 weeks, only just returning to first team football. James Rodriguez has missed a lot of football. Richarlison, okay, he's been in there, but he hasn't. I wouldn't say he's been fully fit. Certainly hasn't been the Richarlison that we know and love for the last few weeks. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's missed a game or so out. Well,
yeah, if you just take them 2 players, right, and they hit, and Dom's gonna probably hit what? You'd suggest maybe 15 plus. I mean, he's obviously going to score more than 15 because he's on about 11 now, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you've got a 15 plus or 20 goal striker in your side. If Richarlison can get anywhere near his 13 goals he scored last year, then that's a massive plus. You're talking a very, very good step there, especially he scored 3 this year. I mean, if he scores 10 this part of the season, that'll be nuts for Everton.
Yeah.
Then you're adding James Rodriguez. If he's fully fit, he scored 3 goals and 3 assists. Obviously, if he maybe doubles that or trebles that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd assume, just to be conservative, he'll probably double that.
Yeah.
So there's 6 goals, 6 assists.
And even with James, pre-assists is something that not many people like to talk about. He's always there, isn't he?
His expected assists are just very high.
Yeah.
Look at Luca Dean. He's on 5 assists for a left back.
Yeah.
That's up with the top players in the league at the moment. And then you look at his expected assists, that's very high. So you look at Iwobi. If Iwobi could improve to 5 goals this year, because he's only on 1, 5 goals and 5 assists, that's massive. You're looking at terms of what Mina and Keane are doing as well. That's big.
Yeah, partnerships.
So, exactly. So we was discussing that with me last time. So in terms of Everton, I mean, I totally, honestly, I don't think they are in it. Like, it'd be nuts to say that, but 10 games time and they're still there. You have to. You can't just dismiss a team that's 3 points off the lead, or like 5, and just say, "Oh no, they're never going to get it." I mean, that's just silly.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, innit? And I think, like I said, that's something that was, I think ultimately the thing that really wound up most Evertonians wasn't just the fact that he said Everton won't win the league, because I think we'd all sit here and agree with that, and nobody's saying...
No one's saying that.
No one's saying Everton's going to win the league this season, or even next season, or the next couple of seasons. We need a lot. We need a lot of work doing to the squad. We need a lot more quality. And ultimately, Marcel Brands come out in the AGM on Thursday and he said, look, this window at the moment, talking about January, is about getting rid of the players that aren't going to be here for long term. He worded it a little bit better. He said finding new challenges for certain players, but practically what he was saying there is we're going to get rid of all the shite, and then in the summer we can focus on bringing in more quality, because notoriously, look, I mean, the January transfer window, I know there's couple of stats that say, oh, look at all the, you know, Van Dijk moved in January, Bruno moved in January, this, that and the other. But I have this feeling that a lot of these signings that are made in January are already in the pipeline for a lot long before that. They just set out to join in January. Look at Everton's history in the January transfer market. It's not great, let's be perfectly honest. The last big money January, we brought in Cenk Tosun and Theo Walcott, and they're two of the players who we're trying to get rid of now. When Marcel Brands spoke about the squad depth, and he said we had a squad of 40 players that was worth, I think, 311 million. We've now got a squad of 27 players that's worth over 450 million or something like that. So we've added over £100 million worth of worth to our squad, and we've decreased it by 13 players, which is massive, because Carlo Ancelotti, one of the first things which was public when he come into Everton, was he wanted a smaller squad. I think it was around 23 players. So if you're going to have a squad of around 23 players, they've got to be quality players. You can't have players in there who, you know, have got no future at the football club, who you know, aren't really good enough, who aren't going to take you to that next level. And ultimately, I suppose, like we said, Tom, just on a base level, before we get into talking about specific players that can come in and improve Everton, Carlo Ancelotti has done absolute wonders with this Everton team. And yes, no one's saying we're going to win the league. No one's saying we're going to challenge for the league, but considering where we are, just points, we spoke about points last time we were on, and the difference between Everton last season and this season. There's a 50-point gap between Everton and Liverpool, and I'm not just mentioning them because it's Liverpool, because I know I'll get someone in the comments saying it's just Liverpool. They won the league, exactly.
They won the league. So, like, that's where Everton's target is. Like, we're all fans. We've been absolutely battered and bruised for years with Everton. So, but we're in the mindset of, like, no, let's take it easy. It's a bit of a sink or swim kind of thing with us, especially after like coming out of a war bunker and after the war's been done, and just tiptoeing around the mines and things like that. So, but you've got a fella there that's just come in who's won everything. Yeah. He's not got the mentality. He's not scarred and things like that, like an Everton fan is, like we are. He's won Champions League, Premier Leagues, you know, Serie A. He's won a lot. He was a brilliant footballer as well. He's won a lot then. So, like, in terms of what we've got mentality-wise as a manager, it's huge. Like, he'll be looking at this now, and he might think we are in the title race. Yeah. He might not be. He won't ever say it publicly, no. And he probably thinks, well, you know, if we do carry on, we do get our players back. I mean, you see, like, do you think? I'll ask this. The way they, I mean, I kept thinking about it, and I watched it again, and the way they celebrated, it wasn't like they just won the game. No. It was like, we're in something here. Yeah, the point. That's the way the players celebrated. Yeah, that's just the way I see it, because it was just strange. I mean, we even heard like Wolves correspondence from like the Athletic and things like that coming out and thinking it was like an overzealous celebration. I'm thinking, well, that was a bit weird, innit? But then when you start looking, you think, hold on a minute. These players think they're in, like, a massive shout here. Yeah. How could you not be? Yeah. You're fifth. That's it. In January. I mean, so you're 5 points off with a game in hand.
I think we were fourth when we beat Wolves. We've only dropped down because of games this weekend in which we haven't played.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we were talking about Everton would go a point ahead of Liverpool, 2 points ahead of Liverpool if they played Villa. I mean, yeah, if Everton would have beat Villa there, and you've seen that game, I mean, listen, I think City will romp the league now. I just think they're coming at to a stage where the wheels are just starting to go, aren't they? And you can see Pep and you see the way. I mean, they were in second gear against Palace and they dominated them. But, I mean, you look at the way Manchester United play, and Liverpool are, like, holding on by a thread. Yeah. Aren't they? They're just, like, holding on by a thread. I mean, if Mane or Salah got injured, it's
game over, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they just wouldn't be. It'd be nuts to say, but I think Everton, if they did have their players in check, I think, and they started falling apart, I mean, I think Everton would go above them. Yeah. And I mean, I think they'd stay above them. I just don't think Liverpool have got that sort of player to keep that level. Yeah. Like, you look at Origi and Shaqiri, and they're nowhere near of what Firmino and that thing is, but you look at it on an Everton basis, though. I mean, of course they're in a thing. I mean, the way Brands is talking, I mean, you look at you look at just quickly at what Everton have got to deal with. I mean, Bernard, from his basis, I mean, he's got a year left on his contract. He's 27.
Yeah.
And he's on 130 grand a week, or around that. I mean, how can you sort of sell that type of player to anyone? I mean,
difficult, isn't it?
Well, why would he go?
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Like I know we'll get on Bolassi's case and all things like that, but why would Bernard go 130 grand a week with a year left on his contract? Bit part player. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. I mean, I know probably you're not going to get push Andre Gomez or something like that, but 140 grand a week. I mean, these are the type, like, we're very heavy. Like, we've got a 28-man squad, but we're very heavy in certain areas where we just don't need to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's things like that. I mean, Tosin's one, but he's on like 70 odd grand a week. I mean, it's the players like Sigurdsson and things like that. If you've got Sigurdsson, Bernard and Gomez off this wage bill in the summer, you're talking about near 400 grand a week you can sort of play with there. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a massive thing to be deal, especially with like FFP and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. And like you said, you know, with the squad size and the worth of the squad is a massive thing. But we've still got a lot of players who are either not good enough or aren't even within the squad. Your Besic's, your Balassis, who are on a lot of money that need shifting. And that's ultimately, I think, what Marcel Brands is saying, isn't he? Is can't really focus on two things at once, and if we want to bring in good quality players, we need to be able to have the finances to do that, and in order to do that with FFP and everything, we need to get rid of these.
Add another one to that, Cam. You know, Fabian Delph's 100 grand a week. I mean, you forget about it.
You forgot about him.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what Brands is. I mean, I think Brands brought him in, didn't he?
Yeah, he brought Delph, yeah.
I mean, that's just like a bad one on his part, but like, how'd you get rid of him on 100 grand a week? Like, it's so easy for fans and us to all sit here and go, right, get rid of him. And I could have a list of 10 that I want to get rid of.
But it's not as easy as that.
But when you look at it from, like, in terms of a club side of things, and then you go, well, right, we want to get rid of him, like, we'll shop him around, but, like, if no one wants him, or, like, everyone will go, well, I'm not taking him on 100 grand a week. 30-year-old who's injury prone. I mean, no one's even, like, when you look at that base, I mean, declining at a rapid rate, by the way.
Yeah.
So, like, there's one. Then you look at Bezic. I mean, Bezic has been here, like, I mean, he's nearly up for a testimonial, that fella. How long has he been at Everton? I mean, what, since
15?
Was it first year of
second year of Martinez, I think it was.
Well, listen, he's 27 now. I think he came in when he was like 22, 21, didn't he?
Yeah.
All because he marked Messi in a World Cup game.
Yeah. And he had a brilliant first touch in his debut against Porto in I can't remember whose testimonial it was. I think it was somebody's testimonial. But then nobody ever seen it, and then his first touch that everybody had seen was
Tony Ibbett.
It might have been Tony Ibbett. It might have been Tony Ibbett, yeah, because that was his final season. Because I remember him playing at Lille.
Yeah, I think it was Tony Ibbett, wasn't it?
But the first touch anybody ever seen was the one against Chelsea where he backheeled it to Diego Costa, and Diego Costa made it about 6-0, and it was just like, this is absolutely brilliant.
So you've got players like that, you need to get off the wage bill and think, but he'll be going in the summer regardless. I mean, his contract's up. I mean, you got Balassi as well on like 75 grand a week. I mean, it's hard to like have a go at these players, but at the end of the day, they're earning a good wage. But as a fan thing, and like it's frustrating because you just go, like, we're trying to improve and, you know, things like that. So listen, they've still got a big job on it, but we've got a manager in who's known for winning, so they could go higher than what they're expected to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially with Brands.
But even though it's so this year, it's a nuts year, and it's not even in terms of like. I don't even think COVID's affected in a sense, but I think you might have just got this anyway, even with fans and all that, like just the way last season finished. So it's a mad season. Listen, it's just all down to luck.
Yeah.
If Everton keep Rodriguez and Dean and Calvert-Lewin back, and Alan. I think Alan and Decore are a big part.
Yeah.
I think they'll go totally under the radar for Everton this year. I mean, obviously James and Dean and Calvert-Lewin will get the plaudits, but if them two can come back and start string together 10 games together, it'll be huge.
Yeah, spot on. Louis said it was Lionel Osman's testimonial. There you go. I knew it was one of the...
Yeah, I thought it was one of them.
One of the two. Anyway, then we will get into the live comments in a moment. By the way, big thanks to everybody for joining us live. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Share the video, share the stream. Let's try and get as many people involved as possible. Let's get into the list of players then who Everton should be looking to sign in order to challenge at that top of the league. We all sit here and say we need to improve our squad, we need to get better. You know, we may have agreed with Roy Keane in those words of that Everton aren't quite good enough yet, so who do we need to bring in to become good enough to challenge? We all know we need to get rid of those players that, you know, haven't got a future at the football club as well. That's a massive part of it, and that ultimately is what Marcel Brands is saying for this window, is that we need to also focus on getting rid of those players for a new challenge in their career. But who do we need to bring in that you know, going to give us that quality to elevate us into that next level? So we've written a couple of positions down, Tom. We'll just go from sort of the back line upwards then, in terms of positions, you know, on the pitch in which we could do with bringing in players to strengthen. I know right back is certainly one that we're going to talk about, because I think we're desperately in need of a first team right back who's going to be guaranteed, you know, 30, 35, 38 games a season, other than, you know, injuries and stuff which you can't help. But is goalkeeper one that you flag up, or do you...
I knew you were going to say that.
It's written down. I've got 2 question marks next to it, and I know we've spoke about it before.
You can't avoid it, can you, really? I mean, big elephant in the room. I mean, listen, like, I'm just looking at it on a sense of, like, they're looking at Robin Olsen, bringing him in. I mean, we've heard rumours about Robin Olsen coming in on the Bernard deal.
6 million.
If they're looking at him as a backup, then listen, with Pickford, I mean, I'm on the train out of there. I mean, I would happily change my goalkeeper now. Yeah. Especially him. I mean, I think he's very erratic. I mean, I don't know what's going to get him to settle down or things like that. He's just totally... I mean, I watched Aaron Ramsdale with Sheffield United, and I mean, he just reminded me of Pickford. Yeah. And they're just so erratic, and it just brings discomfort and uncertainty into a back line, which you just don't want. I mean, Everton only needs, like, if you're looking at what got the goalkeepers in this league, you know, you don't... Everton only needs maybe top 10 goalkeeper in this league to just improve. Yeah. I mean, Pickford's not even in top 20. Yeah. Like, he's on stats wise and things, like, he's so bad.
I think the thing is with Pickford as well is, in talking about bringing in another goalkeeper and improving the squad that way, we're only going to bring in a number 1 goalkeeper if we can sell Jordan Pickford, aren't we? We're not going to have a £40 million goalkeeper and then a £30 million goalkeeper on the bench. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, well, that's like my point. That I never you look at goalkeeper, and I don't even really think it's worth time going into a goalkeeper, because I think he's going to be here next year. Yeah. I just don't see who would pay it, for one, and secondly, where he would go. Yeah. Like, I mean, you just don't see it. I mean, you look around the league and think, who would take Pickford? Maybe Brighton.
You wouldn't have the money to pay for him.
Exactly, but that's where you're looking at, though, aren't you? West Brom. That's probably the level he's playing at. Like, he'd never go to Newcastle, but, like, there's another one. Like, it's that sort of mid to low table that he's at. Yeah, not challenging at the top. Because goalkeepers win your games and lose your points, and we've seen that in recent years at the top of the table. Exactly. I mean, going just off, like, a stats-wise thing, I mean, the top 5 is Nick Pope, Martinez for Villa, McCarthy at Southampton, Alisson and Aurelio Fulham, and then you've got Lloris. Like, even Fabianski's 35 and he's still up there. I mean, I think he goes under the radar as well, Fabianski, to be honest with you. But you look at you throw them names out like that, and you think, well, we could get a sort of player level of that, surely.
Yeah. Spot on. Again, I think I agree with what you said. It's one of them where it's sort of like, yes, we do need to improve.
Is it realistic?
But yeah, I don't think it's realistic, and it's not a priority for the club. I mean, Lenny says I'm fine with Pickford. He's having a good season. Harshit says I'm okay with Pickford. To be honest, we need a backup midfielder. Connor Davis is our backup. Adam says goalkeeper is not a priority. Can't think of an effing name. Says Pickford's a smart ass laugh when he makes mistakes. We need Donnarumma. He also says we need 2 loans in January. Xerxes right back, and in the summer time Bailey, Donnarumma and Aarons. And that's it. Like we said about Pickford, I think it's realistically, I think Carlo Ancelotti is happy with Jordan Pickford. I think he realises there's improvements to be made, but I do think Ancelotti has confidence that Jordan Pickford can make those improvements, and maybe that's all part of bringing Robin Olsen in on a permanent. Maybe Carlo's watched Pickford and Olsen recently in training and thought he's rubbing off on him in a positive way. He's a lot calmer. He's not, being as rash, and he still does do the odd thing which makes you go, what are you doing? And I think he makes the odd save that he sort of wants to clip up, put in a photograph frame and put on his wall, because sometimes he dives for things that are balls that are 4 mile out, and you're like, what are you doing? What are you even doing that for? But
yeah, he's
in the last couple of games, I do think he's been better. I mean, Richard Fan says, to be honest, Jordan's performed well in the last couple of games. I think he's been calmer. Having said that, we haven't been put under an awful lot of pressure in the last couple of games.
I think as well, though, I think because he's played that bad, you watch him more.
Yeah.
So you might be looking for things that aren't necessarily there, but like in terms
you're
of
waiting, aren't you?
Yeah, well, but he's got that in him.
Yeah.
I don't think I think you're waiting because it's expected, because it's in him to do something stupid. But then in the same breath, he can pull off an absolute worldie of a save.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a catch-22. Me personally, I think his shot stopping's very good.
Yeah.
I just think it's his catching and his distributing that worries me.
Yeah.
That's the 2 things. I mean, you look at the way he goes for like corners and free kick, and you just think, why is he trying to punt, or why is he flapping at it?
Yeah.
Just be more sort of commanding of your area.
Confidence as well.
Yeah. I mean, out of a goalkeeper, you just want to be cool, calm, and collected. You don't want this nuts fella at the back, do you? Who's like, you know what he reminds me of, like if you're playing FIFA and you just start pressing the triangle, and he goes everywhere, and you're just messing around with it. He reminds me of that sort of thing, that someone's controlling him like that. Like he just does some daft things.
Yeah, no, I agree, and ultimately he's still got a lot to improve on, and I think he still has to get his head down and work hard. But like we said, he's not a priority for the club, and maybe rightly so with other the issues. I mean, Wayne says we have bigger issues than Pico. Cal says he's awful, replace him. Noah says, what do you take on the Xerxes rumours? We'll get into talking about those in a moment. Lenny thinks Pickford is learning from Olsen. Hey, Chubby says Carlo was getting the best out of him. Noah says, I think Jordan needs out, and I think Dean Henderson is a shout if United are open to a loan or payment. United wouldn't even budge with us for Sergio Romero in the summer, and he's been completely removed out of their setup, so I doubt they'll budge with Dean Henderson. Lenny says he has a whopper of a kick on him. Peter Whelan says Pickford has been calm and played well recently. Now as a mentor working with him, I think he probably became a bit more complacent. I'm sure that Olsen will keep him on his toes. I read that he's got somebody working close to him to help him with sort of things like that.
Well, it's good to hear things like that, because he does want to improve and he does want to settle down, but like maybe in terms of Olsen's not, like, I wouldn't say Olsen's the greatest back. I mean, like you've just mentioned there, Romero, I think his contract's up this summer. Maybe you go get him
on a free
instead, on a free transfer, and I could see him pushing Pickford more than what Olsen would.
Yeah.
But I think it's more the sort of manager and Brands saying to Pickford, like, listen, if you don't improve, then we are actively looking
for another goalkeeper.
For another goalkeeper.
Yeah, no, I agree. Adam says Pickford's been working with a sports psychologist, which he said in an interview has made him perform better. I can't think of a name. Says when Pickford doesn't play terrible, everyone thinks he's good enough. Again, he doesn't ever do anything. Michael Keane and Mina do it all. Well, fair enough. I think we all sort of agree on that one, that, you know, the argument for Jordan Pickford, we could sit here and talk about all night about whether he's good enough or not. I think ultimately, quite similar to the Tom Davis argument, really. Carlo Ancelotti very clearly thinks that he's good enough and very clearly continues to play him and is backing him. And I don't think he's going anywhere, to be honest. So, moving up into the defence then, I think left-back, I don't think was going to be one that we're looking at, especially given...
Oh, yeah. I'd change Dean, mate.
Yeah.
Get him out of here, yeah.
I seen another screenshot today about his stats.
I was so far away. Before comments start firing, going, is he serious? No, yeah, I was joking.
I'd seen another stat graph today about Dean, and he was just like everyone's here competing, and Dean's just like on Mars somewhere, just levels above.
They don't get the credit that he deserves because he's at Everton. They're like, you always hear, if he was at somewhere else, it's just a daft argument that, you look at the top left backs in the league. Keane with Andy Robertson, Chilwell, players like, even James Justin's performed pretty well there, and I think for Leicester, but he's predominantly a right footer. But you look at that thing, and you look at that, and you think he's probably the best left back in the Premier League.
Yeah. I think he is, personally.
Like if he went to Man United now,
there wouldn't even be an argument.
There would be no discussion, and there wouldn't be I think Kieran Tierney was getting plaudits the other things like that, but Tierney's nowhere near Dean's level.
No, not a chance.
Do you know what I mean?
Not a chance.
He's France's number one left back, and he's probably the best. We've probably got the. And then you go into Europe. There's an argument that he's probably top 5 in Europe.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what you've got there. You could probably say, I don't know, back up me, but Nkunku.
Godfrey as well.
Godfrey. I think it'd be. I don't know.
No, I don't think left back's one we're gonna focus on. Same with centre half, to be honest. But right back.
But, just on that now, right? When you think of that, you look at Nkunku's situation, and you think, right, he's in and around the first team, and he's like 19 coming up to 20. How would you say then to go and develop him? Because probably next season, if we are in Europe, he might get a few games for Europe, but in terms of his personal development, like where's he going? You know what I mean? I
would say alone it'd be ideal for Nkunku, but I just think. I think the left back situation. Obviously, we were holding out for Leighton Baines to sign a 1-year extension at the very least, and us holding out for that didn't have anything to do with the Nkunku deal, because Nkunku was coming in to play in the under-23s, to play consistent football, and again not being in around the first team yet. But obviously Leighton Baines didn't sign the contract extension, and Nkunku come in for a couple of Carabao Cup games, and then we stumbled across this player who's got an awful lot of talent. So now he's not being with the under-23s, he's sort of been playing with he's been involved with the first team squad. And also I don't want to say it doesn't help, because it does help, because it's good to have good players, but Thierry Small has come into the under-23s, and he's now doing it at left back, so it's unlikely that Niels Nkunku would drop down. So I do think alone it'd probably be ideal, but then you sort of have to look at it and think, well, then do we need another left back? And then you're looking at then there's other positions on the pitch that we need to strengthen as a matter of urgency before we look for another left back. Or would he say, well, Nkunku could go on loan for a year and we'll have Godfrey as our backup left back if need be?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me, because when you see, like, he's playing Godfrey there, Godfrey's that's not as natural. So that indicator shows that Ancelotti's not at the level to trust him as yet.
Yeah, spot on.
If that makes sense, you know what I mean? If you look at it, I know it might be a mad one, but Ryan Bertrand's Southampton, his contract's up in the summer.
Yeah.
He's played very well. I know he's 31, 32, but
not bad for a free.
If you look at him in terms of being a backup for Dean and just coming in and playing like European games, Carabao Cup, FA Cups, for 2 seasons, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, while Nkunku goes and develops somewhere, it's not a bad little business thing, that really, is it?
No. Well, yeah, again, coming in on a free, and like you said, a couple of year contract, and then hopefully Nkunku can come back and have that experience. It'd work, but it's whether Bertrand would want to come in on a 2-year contract, and ultimately,
I think he would. At 31,
well, yeah.
32. It it's all hypothetical, but you're trying to predict what the club are going to do, and you're trying to predict or like sort of work out how they feel about their own players at the moment. I mean, with us, we just say, yeah, keep in Kunku, and yeah, but you look at Ancelotti, he doesn't necessarily look like he'll trust him. I mean, maybe in the Europa League when we go up against Applewell or someone again, I mean, he's probably all day for that, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, might do a Martinez and just leave Calvert-Lewin like Lukaku. He left Lukaku and all that, and just thought we were going to breeze it and just throw all the young lads in, don't you? You know what I mean? Get absolutely tonked when the semi-finals there on the horizon. As you, let's not go down the Martinez route.
I think Ancelotti's been in far too many of them situations to make those mistakes. Well, we'll go to right back then, because I think that's the first position, certainly working upwards, that I think it's probably a lot of Evertonians' main priority this summer, to be honest, and we will talk about, maybe centre midfielder, right wing, potential backup striker, but I think right back is the main priority now. I sort of feel like Everton are in that situation where we need to sign a Luca Dean, but for the right-hand side, if you get me. And what I mean by that is I don't just mean a world-class right-back. I mean, it's getting to the point with Seamus Coleman as it was with Leighton Baines in 2018, where you're sort of thinking, right, okay, he's still got enough quality to be a member of the squad. He's still good enough to be in and around the squad, but he ain't going to have the consistency to play 38 games in the Premier League season. He's going to pick up knocks, he's going to pick up injuries, and even when playing, he hasn't got the stamina to get up and down the pitch. More so with Seamus because of the injuries he's had in his career. So I think we're in a situation now where we absolutely have to bring in a first team right back, and Seamus Coleman has to take that step onto the bench. I suppose this is a straight, answer and not a difficult question in saying, do we definitely need a right back? Yeah, we do. We need somebody that gets forward. We need a natural right back. But has the Mason Holgate situation thrown a little spanner in the works for Carlo Ancelotti, do you think, Tom? Or is it sort of one of them where you just think Mason can play there if need be, but he should be developing as a centre-half and we should bring in a first-team right back for 20 million or however much? Or do you think Carlo might be looking at it going, well, you know what? I've got an old plethora of centre-halves there. I've got Meenan and Keane, who are very clearly the best pairing. I've got Godfrey who can come in. I've got Branthwaite on loan, who's going to come back with a lot of experience. I've got Holgate to go in if need be. Maybe we could utilise Mason a little bit more, because let's be perfectly honest, in an ideal world, everybody's fit. Mason Holgate isn't really going to start at centre-back over Michael Keane and Yerry Mina, certainly not at the moment. So do you think that's maybe throwing a little spanner in the works, or do you just think, no, go out and sign a right back, and Mason can be back up for him or back up for the centre-halves?
I think summertime, I think we've definitely got to go for a right back. I mean, you're just looking at it at the basis of John Joe Kenny is just not the right type or profile for what the Premier League, or as in terms of what we want out of our right back.
Yeah.
He does everything in sort of, he doesn't necessarily get in the final third and get crosses to the byline and like Luca Dean does, or no progressive runs off the ball or overlapping runs. He's very I don't think John Joe's slow. I just don't think he's got the confidence in his own ability to go drive at players. I mean, you look at it and think Coleman does far more at 32 than what Kenny's ever done. Yeah. So I just don't think he's that type.
Even Mason gets forward on a couple of occasions.
He doesn't necessarily do a lot of good things, Kenny. I mean, he does everything from deep and crosses in and things, and you just don't want that. But if he's going to leave, which I think he will, you're trying to look for a replacement for Coleman, so you're down to one right back, and 32 as it is. So I think it's definitely a position that we're going to look at. In terms of Holgate, I mean, I've always said I don't think Holgate's a centre half. I don't think his future is. I think it's either a defensive midfielder or you're looking at a right back position. I mean, he done that at West Brom and he done it very well. But if everyone's fit, I was thinking about this the other day, and I'd done basically top like Everton 11 if everyone was fit, and the only position really that I'm stumped on is the right back. Who would play there? Like
for me, it'd be Holgate now for me.
But you wouldn't have Godfrey there.
Well, at right back and Dean's fit, isn't he? So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was me conundrum.
Yeah.
Like Holgate played well, but then Godfrey's playing. I mean, he's not like sort of expansive going foot, but he gets forwards. Do you know what I mean?
He's a much more powerful runner than Mason Holgate as well.
But he's shown that from a left-hand side on his weaker foot.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So he switched him to a right back. Because I don't think Godfrey will get in that back too. I just think Keane and Mina have sort of cemented that partnership now.
Yeah.
And unless anyone's going to get thingy, I mean, I don't think Godfrey will get in the centre mids if everyone's fully fit. You sort of, it's that right back position where
it's a good headache, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, in terms of going forward, that could be Holgate sort of thing, but then you look at it and go, well, we'll need another centre half then.
Yeah.
Maybe they are looking at it, but I think looking at it more instead of thinking, can Holgate do it, which he can, but he's not more expansive than what I think. Like you said, I think it's perfect if we can sort of mirror what Luca Dean's doing on the left side with a player who does that, who has that profile. I mean, you're going up levels, aren't you?
Yeah, spot on. So I've wrote a couple of names down I'm going to throw at you, mate. A couple that I know have been mentioned in the comments. I mean, there's loads of comments. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Share the video. Let's get as many people in here as possible. See Max Aaron's name mentioned a couple of times. Ricardo Pereira, Cornet, what's happening, mate? Thanks for joining us.
Very good player, Ricardo. I mean, would he leave Leicester?
Well, that's it. Lenny said he'd probably cost us 45 to 50 million. Where are we now? Noah says Bellerin's too old and injury prone. Bellerin's name thrown about there. Noah says Norwich would ask too much money for Aarons. Lenny says Norwich are pissing the championship. Cornet mentioned Reece James before. William says I wouldn't deal with Chelsea, period, based on our experience with them. They are TW at signs to negotiate with. I'll get myself around that monetarisation block. Lenny says he's Chelsea's number one, talking about Reece James. Cornet says offer 50 million. Jared says Aarons or Lamptey. Lenny says Aarons or Selleck would be good signings. So I've written at Max Aarons and Zeki Selleck down. Zeki Selleck because we were linked with him and there was rumours that we would potentially go in for him. I know Fabrizio Romano sort of put out a rumour that stated that we could be interested in him, and Max Aarons because he seems to be the most popular name at the moment in terms of Premier League clubs who are looking for a right back. By the way, you know, there's a lot of clubs mentioning Max Aaron's name. Just before we get into talking about it, these signings are for the summer. Max Aarons won't be an Everton player this month. Norwich are doing very well in the Championship, and I think I said it, I can't remember if you were on the stream with me or I might have even just said it on my couch, but the January transfer window usually goes in this way. If a player is worth £50 million in the summer, then whoever he plays for look at it and go, right, okay, well, you're desperate for a player in that position, so that's another 20 million added to his price tag, so that's 70, and we're doing quite well at the moment. Certainly like a Norwich or a Watford, I was thinking about Ismail Assar when I thought about this, or a Watford, we're doing well at the moment, he's a key player, so that's another 30, so you're practically playing double money in January as to what you'd play in the summer because of the position of clubs in the league, as well as the fact that clubs know that you're desperate for players in that position. So this is obviously talking about the summer and improving in the summer transfer window. Do either of those names stick out at you, mate, or do you think Everton should be maybe looking at somebody else to come in and be that number one right back?
Yeah, I mean, on Selleck, we mentioned it last time, didn't we? He is. He's a very good, solid right back who would certainly improve Everton. I mean, I think he's going to Roma. I think that's pretty nailed on, to be honest with you, that one. I mean, I think Romano sort of just threw Everton's name in out of nowhere, really.
Bit of
on
agency
that one.
talk, bit of bump the price up.
Listen, that's what it seems to happen in the last 2 years with Everton.
Yeah.
I mean, Everton's name gets put because you've had this so-called billionaire come in and we've got all this money and things like that. I mean, a lot of transfers, Everton's name's just put onto it.
That's it.
But yeah, listen, he would certainly improve Everton, that sort of position, and he's a very good modern day right back. But if he's going to Roma, then you're looking at Max Aarons, and to me, Max Aarons got a very good high ceiling. Now, with Aarons, it depends on. I'm trying to think, would he fit into Everton's system? See, me personally, I think he's heading towards that Lamptey conversation where he's a right wing back.
Yeah.
I
Well, the
think,
Lamptey conversation was brought up today, wasn't it? And I think we
I,
were thrown in the hat, and a lot of people
me,
mentioned that position
me,
change.
me personally, I wouldn't go nowhere near Lamptey, especially when the way we play. His best works as a right wing back.
Yeah.
So he's in a back five. I mean, Everton are horrendous at back fives.
Well, yeah, as proven.
Yeah, we're awful. We're awful. I mean, it's quite evident. So it'd be hard to. I mean, are you going to see all his best work that he does at Brighton at Everton if he's going into a flat back four?
Yeah, probably.
Me personally, I don't think so.
No.
Aaron's for me is probably out of them is very interesting because he done very well at Norwich when he come up, and I know he was linked with Barcelona and things like that. He's that type of sort of right back, modern day right back that everyone's after, aren't they? But it's more necessarily like his defensive work. I mean, he's a little bit suspect in terms of his aerial duels and defending wise. I mean, he's brilliant going forwards, but it's not just about going forward, is it? It's you want defending first, and then you can go at the attacking side. And you look at his attacking side. Maybe I've watched a bit too much of him at the moment, but his crossing's a little bit suspect. I don't think he's that much of a great crosser with the ball. I mean, he reminds me of Coleman, like a young Coleman, as in the sense of just going forward, driving forward, and when he does get into the box, he's very good. But for him to go out wide and just whip a cross in, he hasn't got that like Luca Dean-esque cross in him. So listen, I might be looking far too much into it, but yeah, he'd be a good option. But then, like you say, how much would that
it costs
how much
so
would that
much.
cost? I mean, like you say, Norwich are in the running a Premier League, so it's in terms of that. I mean, sorry, someone's at me.
It's all right. No worries. No, it's Phil. I was going to say, Phil popped up there. No, I agree.
Phil's got cocky there.
Trying to get involved in the stream. No, no, I agree. Look, absolutely. I think, ultimately, well, I haven't watched it put in the channel. Everton are in talks with Bayern for the transfer of Joshua Zirkzee. Apparently that's on Sky Sports Germany. Not too sure about that one. I'll have to check it up when we finish. But no, I agree. I think
just on the quick Zirkzee, no, but not.
No. Well, we'll talk about Zirkzee in a moment when we talk about centre forwards. But
little birdies. I've heard said we're not even into it. Listen, maybe that changes, but
wouldn't surprise me considering Marcel Brands said.
I wouldn't be surprised if Machiri just phoned up and went, yeah, let's have him.
Yeah, 50 mil.
That fella actually.
Yeah.
But
bring him over tomorrow. Yeah. No, I agree about Max Aarons. I think he's got a very, very high ceiling, like you said, and he has got potential. But you're right. He's not that Luca Dean who's going to get to the byline and whip in a ball, which 9 times out of 10, is going to get on somebody's head. But maybe a player with that raw confidence that Seamus Coleman had, 10 years ago, that ultimately moulded him into the player that he is and was for Everton, of just getting into the areas. That's something that we haven't seen enough of from Seamus recently, and probably because of his injuries and his age and stuff. But that's all you used to see from Coleman. He'd just drive. He'd get into the area and he'd stick his foot through it. And sometimes it'd rifle into the top corner, sometimes it'd go over the bar. But it was those chances, and I remember scoring in the last minute. I think it was against Palace away from home.
He was never technically very, very good, was he, Coleman? He was just very physically brute force, bulling a China shot, drive.
Work rate. He always had the work rate, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. That's what always you got from Coleman. So, I mean, if you could get a younger Seamus Coleman with better thingy, happy days. But I think an important thing is that I think Ancelotti will only agree to bring someone in at that age if he thinks he's very capable of coming in and starting and improving the team. I don't think we're going to start bringing in these young players who are going to get developed. Everton are at the stage as a club-wise, and I don't think Ancelotti necessarily wants that now.
Yeah. No, I agree, absolutely, and that's the balance, isn't it, between the Marcel Brands sort of structure, if you like, which is bringing in younger players that have got a massive future, your Branthwaite, your Nkunkus, your Godfreys, and the Ancelotti of Allans and Hammeses and Decores, who players that aren't, on the decline, I'd say, but are at that peak level of their career, sort of late 20s, early 30s, that are ready-made, ready to come in and have an impact. And if you can get that right balance, it'll work. And Marcel Brands and Carlo Ancelotti both spoke about that at the AGM, about having a great mix of experienced and young players, and the young players in the squad are really settling in. Ben Godfrey's been an absolute revelation. Even the likes of Romelu Lukaku, getting a little bit daisy there.
Thought he was back.
Getting a little bit daisy there, bloody hell. That's that memory's just popped to the front of my mind. I have to get that one back. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Mason Holgate, all still quite young players, even though they've been here for a long time, and it doesn't feel like that. They're still relatively at the start of their career. So Max Adams, obviously you'd take him, but he's going to cost an awful lot of money, and he's not the finished article, and that some people may think he is. Zeki Celik, more than likely going to go to Roma. Any other names right back wise that you want to throw in there?
See, me personally, you've got to, we're at this stage now with Everton that the pandemic if you look at the numbers that sort of have hit Everton in pandemic wise, and also over the last few years how much money Everton have lost. I mean, Mishiri had to put 250 million extra into the club to sort of put that aside. I mean, you can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
And then plus as well, you look at it, I think we lost 70 million due to COVID.
Yes,
so,
just over 69, I think it was.
Yeah, like so you look at that, and then you add into the 60 million I spend. It's a lot of money.
It doesn't. I know Machiri's worth a lot of money, but doesn't just grow on trees, does it? Well, it does because it's paper, but it's not just.
If I was a billionaire, I wouldn't just on this frigging thing just kept taking money off me. I was like, well, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
just taking constant money.
You can see he's committed.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree, not because I think he sees it as like, if this does work and Everton do get a big stadium and Everton do become part of that top
it'd be
six,
worth massive.
The business for him would be huge.
Yeah, spot on.
And I wouldn't necessarily say he will carry on being that. I think he's looking at it and thinking, well, I might sell to Usmanov and things like that. I mean, he's constantly getting things, but I think Everton need to be smart. I think Everton need to look at things and think, well, if our budget's near between 60 million again, I think you've got to find some shrewd signings, really.
Yeah.
Instead of just throwing darts at the dartboard and hoping you hit a bullseye.
Yeah.
So I think one player that I've brought up to you, I mentioned, and he's currently he's going to be out of contract in the summer, is Gonzalo Montiel. He plays for River Plate. He's got 6 Argentinian caps. I mean, he's played the last 4 games for Argentina and started. So he's that type of player, and then you look at him and he's probably in that Zelik sort of area of player where you think, oh no, he will come in and improve us, and he's 24. I mean, you look at his stats. I'll just bring the stats up now. I mean, this season alone, I mean, his cross capacity shows 7.51, so you're in the average zone in that league. I mean, his crossing percentage is 48%. I mean, I had to check this with one of the lads if this was wrong, but his progressive runs is 4.15 a game.
Crazy different to what we've got at the moment.
I mean, it's dribblings, 2.22 each game, but it's a set 40%. But dribbling wise, there's a lot of things that go into dribbling. I mean, his touches in the box is 1.93. I mean, nearly 2 touches in the box every game. Then you look at his expected assist, it's 0.15. I mean, I think Luka Dean's in that area as well currently. I mean, successful passes to penalty area, 2.81. So he's very involved in his in terms of creative wise and going forward for River Plate. I mean, you're talking about one of the biggest clubs in South America.
Yeah.
And plus as well, he's recognised as an Argentinian international now. So you're looking at the rules in terms of could Everton get that over with the Brexit rules? I think they should. I think he would get one.
Yeah.
I think they look at like exceptional talent, don't they? And I think and plus as well, you get points for where where the country is in the FIFA rankings, and Argentina's sitting 7th. So I don't think there'd be any problem getting a work permit here. I mean, he's very good defensively. I mean, he's 82.35% of his defensive duels he wins. He's averaging 7.79 interceptions per 90.
It's excellent, that, isn't it?
I mean, and even so, but then you look at, and then obviously when you get the eye on him, he's a very, like, it's all right me banging out all these stats, and he's very good in it. But when you watch him, you see it physically, and he sort of gets the tick mark on the eye test, really.
Yeah.
With a free transfer, I mean, like we were saying, if you're going to keep Coleman, which I think he will, I think he will keep Coleman, and then you've got Holgate there as a backup and things like that. I mean, I think it's just a logical and sensible transfer to go for.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of if you're just looking at his passing and progression, I mean, his progressive passes, he's like in 78.3. I mean, that's in the 1 percentile. Yeah. I mean, his progressive passing accuracy is 83%. I mean, final pass accuracy 67%. His pass accuracy overall in general is 85.16%. So
definitely somebody we should be looking at. Then.
No, I mean, he's been linked with West Ham, and I think it's just a smart. I mean, I think West Ham are slowly turning, using their model in a far better thing than what they used to be. I mean, they bought anyone, West Ham, really, didn't they? I mean, at some points they were a bit of a laughing stock in terms of recruitment wise, and but now Moyes is in there, and I think different people in there. You look at Souček, who they've brought in, very smart business.
Yeah.
I mean, right back now, Kufal, who he's brought in, he's got rid of Haller. Doesn't want no near Haller. So, listen, if West Ham are looking at things like that, but then you're looking at that and think, and plus, well, he's been linked at Lyon. I know how good Lyon are with their recruitment in South American wise. So I think it'd just be a no real brainer, really. I mean, free transfer. I mean, it's a free hit.
That's it.
Wouldn't be really demanding Bernard free transfer wages.
That's it. Well,
so it's a bit of a less cost effective, and plus as well, if he does come in and do well, then he's obviously an asset. But you can start looking at more important areas then.
Yeah, no, spot on. I agree completely, and like you said, again, for a lad that's going to come in on a free, fantastic stats, similar stats to Luca Dean, which ultimately is what we need, certainly going forward. There's very little risk in it, really, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's probably better financially, certainly for the club at the moment, to do that, to sign him than go out and spend 50-60 million on a player that is a potential at the moment. The Dugout Football Channel's donated £4.99 to the stream. Big massive thanks, Dougie. He says, nice to see Sky ignoring the fact that Everton are in the title race. It's so tight. There's 6 teams that can win the Premier League. Keep up the good work, Cam. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, just let them keep ignoring us. So no, I agree. Spot on. He's definitely a name that a lot of people won't know, but one that some people, people could get to know, and certainly one that could be in and around Everton's radar for certainly the summer to bring in. So moving on to midfield then. You mentioned one name to me there that people will be more familiar with just off camera. Megan says, I'm from Southern California and I feel like they're speaking a different language. Well, the Scouse is a different language, in it, certainly to a lot of people. Don't think it's that. I'll have to start doing me American accent. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not even attempting it. This is the only one I know, and that's it. If we talk a little bit slower, maybe, but
yeah, no, I think it's just the Scouse, innit? It's a difficult one to understand. So midfielders then, attacking midfielders, creative midfielders. You mentioned one name to me off camera there. Certainly somebody that won't be at the forefront of everybody's mind. Look, I'd love a Jack Grealish, but the realistic situation surrounding Jack Grealish is... Megan says, OMG, I didn't know you guys were going to say that out loud, please.
pull everyone off. I mean, Phil's just in the buses.
Phil's
so...
here. If we actually did win the league, there'd be mass. Don't even think I read that among the biased sports channels. He also says, "Lol, Megan." Dobbs says Scouse is amazing to listen to as an outsider. Semi says, "Lol, Megan," and Phil puts 2 laughing faces in. So, central midfielders, then attacking midfielders, players that can create, players that can come in. Like I said, I'd love a Jack Grealish, I absolutely would, but very unrealistic considering the current market and the fact that Aston Villa are doing well as well.
It's a dream signing.
He would be a dream. But alternatives, who are we thinking?
Well, you'd have to ultimately see like what do we need. I mean, I know it's hard to bring up, but Kabamen's still there. Yeah. I mean, hopefully he gets back to any playing time really. But it sort of reminds me of I remember when Danny Ings got injured and it was a bad injury, and then Klopp come in and he just totally dismissed him, and it sort of got them vibes where like, is he ever gonna be like involved, or was Ancelotti and the club just want to move on from this now? So it's gonna be that way. I mean, we've got Alan, work rate, Carlo, absolute carries the water for the water side and the defensive side. I mean, Decore as well can do that, I don't know, but also box to box midfielder. So also think he can do a bit of an attack and mid roll as well, don't we? So I think in terms of, we haven't got anyone else apart from them. So you could potentially, I mean, it all depends on if they get rid of Davies and Gomez. Me personally, a player that I've brought up to you before off camera, and I think I might have mentioned it, is Carlo Soler from Valencia.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wanted to do sort of like a swap deal with Gomez and bring Gomez back to Valencia, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I mean, listen, you're talking, I mean, there is a player in there, Gomez. It's not totally gone, but in terms of Premier League, I don't think he's at the Premier League sort of level. Like, I just don't think he's there as in terms of physically and more powerful wise. I think he just would fit.
Yeah.
And he ultimately does fit the slow pace and time on the ball La Liga. So they're in a bit of a mess, and they're trying to sell players. So listen, if Everton could sort of go for a Carlo Soler, who's very, very good at it, sort of like a deep lying midfielder. I mean, I know he's played, I think it's his first season playing this role, and I mean, they play in a 4-4-2, so very similar to what Everton play.
Yeah.
And he could definitely, he'd be brilliant. I mean, in terms of like progressive wise, he's very good. I'll just bring up his. I've got so many things. Oh yeah, there we go. So many.
All the tabs open. Hey, it's all like Football Manager saves me.
Yeah. Well, if you're just looking at his like progressive runs, he's 1.81 per 90. So that's like nearly double as what Gomez does. I mean, in
scary numbers for Everton.
Yeah, I mean, in passing and progression, I mean, the key is for me, when you look at it, it's not necessarily his percentages. I mean, his percentages are 73%, 70% right across the board, and then his passing accuracy overall is 85%. But you look how much he attempts; it's very, very high.
Yeah.
I mean, with his final third to forward pass ratio, he's hitting like 61.
Yeah.
62. I mean, that in the league, that's very high. That's in the 1 percentile. So then you look at his defensive duels. I mean, 5.6. I mean, per 90. I mean, and he's winning 57% of it. Interceptions, he can move about. But this is a key one as well as expected assists, 0.15.
Yeah,
that's huge. Through passes is 44% accuracy. He's that type of player that can sort of, what we've struggled against these teams, like in terms of West Ham, when we see now we needed someone deep to just start breaking lines through with passing lanes and things like that. So I think he'd be very, very shrewd. And I mean, if you could get the swap deal with Gomez and maybe add like sort of a bit of a fee as well, I think it'd be very good. But if they didn't really want to go for sort of that, I mean, he's got 2 years left on his contract. You may be looking at 20, 30 million in that bracket.
Yeah. which
round there.
in this day and age isn't a massive amount, is it? I mean, it's not cheap, but it's very affordable.
He's just turned 24.
Exactly, and you got the longevity.
He's certainly gonna be. He's certainly going to be in the conversation for Spain for the national team very soon.
Makes a lot of sense.
I think his performances just speak for itself really in a team that's sort of on its bare bones really. And you look at the financial thing, and I think in terms of Everton wise, I think they can take advantage of Valencia's thing. I mean, they're 14th in the league. Yeah. And he's probably top 2, top 3 performance wise midfielders at the moment. I mean, you got Mikel Merino at Real Sociedad. I think he's already had his time. I mean, I think he's very comfortable at Sociedad, Mikel Merino. I mean, he was at Newcastle. Thought he had a good season, to be honest with you. I was surprised he left. But yeah, Carlo, I think it's certainly one. I mean, as in a deep lying playmaker type role, which ultimately we haven't really got. I mean, Gomez, Davies, he'd be a massive improvement on them too. They've sort of futures are up in the air, aren't they? And then if sort of Ancelotti wanted to go towards more so like, I mean, the key is for me now when Decore, I mean, the panic's in, and then like he's missing one game, and it's still sweating time, isn't it? Because it brings so much to the team in terms of work rate and box to box. So I mean, I brought 2 up, and 2 of them, the first one's Anguissa from Fulham.
Yeah.
I think he's been absolutely brilliant
Premier
this
League
year.
experience as well.
Premier League experience, done it in La Liga with Villarreal. He had a brilliant season there. He's come back. I was so surprised that no one ever really went for him, especially for his Villarreal exploit. But isn't he's very, very high up in that sort of centre mid role. I mean, if you put him, I think he'd complement Decore well. I think he'd complement Alan well. I think he could play in a 3 with Alan and Decore and let Decore go further up on the pitch. And plus, he adds that extra and plus, like his passing and progression is underrated.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. As in terms of he's not this sort of workhorse box to box player. He's a lot more technical than Decore in like his passing and progression. So I think he'd be staying, especially if Fulham go down. I think a lot of clubs will be after him.
Yeah, spot on.
If we're in the mix, then I think as well. Everton have, like where we mentioned, we've got like 28 squad players, and we're like heavy in different areas, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like we're very heavy in centre mid, but they don't necessarily do the roles that we want them to do.
No.
So if you got rid of Sigurdsson, Gomez, and Davies, and sort of added 2 in there that could do the Decore role, but as well as bring one in who can do a far better job doing the deep line, I think is what I'm sort of getting at really. And
no, I agree. It's all about bringing more quality in whilst trimming the squad, like you said. You know, you look at centre forward and we're very light up front at the moment. I mean, we've only got Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the striker. You look at right back, we're very light in terms of natural right backs. Obviously, John Joe Kenny's there, but he's not. He's not favoured by Ancelotti. And then you look at central midfield, and we've got about 16 central midfielders. We've got Gomez, Davis, Sigurdsson, Alan, Decore, Gabaman. I've probably missed a couple out there. They've just listed off the top of my head. You could have a Wobie could play there. Delph, which I've missed out, probably subconsciously on purpose.
Yeah, I think you're just trying to get him out.
That was a subconscious thing. That there's a part of my brain saying, no, you've not missed anybody. You've got everybody. Move on. So we've got a lot of players, but you look at that there, and a Gabaman aside, because obviously he's had a big injury, and again, I don't really want to go into him because. Ultimately, he's been here for 2 years and he's played 3 games. But the rest of them, obviously, we know what we get from Decore, Alan, brilliant, fantastic. But Gomez, could we improve on? Yes. Sigurdsson, could we improve on? Yes. Davis, could we improve on? Yes. Delph, absolutely. So we are very top heavy in centre midfield, but I think we also could do with another style of midfielder, Tom, and we spoke about a certain player off camera who's played in the Premier League before as well. Doesn't currently play in the Premier League.
Bruyne.
Yeah. Talking about David Silva from 5 years ago. No. Play for Newcastle and could be a cheaper alternative to maybe a Jack Grealish, somebody that's going to get forward, create chances. And ultimately, somebody that's probably not going to cost us a massive amount of money as well, but would inject that extra bit of quality going forward, I suppose, because as much as we need maybe another central midfielder, or probably do need another central midfielder to add to the quality of the Doucourés and Allans for the inevitability that one of those two gets injured, we could also do with somebody that's creative as well, couldn't we? Because we've got Dean, who's been brilliant, we've got James, who's been brilliant, but again, both of those players have had sustained periods of time, injured or not able to play, and then we've been missing that quality.
Yeah, when you look at it, and listen, we keep saying we could get rid of 15 players, but they've got to sort of be realistic and see, I don't think Sigurdsson's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I just genuinely don't.
You see him signing a new contract then?
I hopefully he doesn't, because I think it'd be a right... I mean, in terms of if you want James Rodriguez to be that sort of number 10, Sigurdsson isn't bad to sort of fill a gap, is he? In terms of European wise and things like that, he just fills a gap. Listen, he's very frustrating, but then too, listen, we could course and improve, but I think the more areas that we need more than them is the deep line playmaker who can do far better than what Gomez and Davies do, and that sort of player who, like an Anguissa, who can do the Allan and Doucouré role. So then to a higher up on the priority list than what an attacker mid is. I mean, I'd love to have a Ross Barkley sort of profile role coming back into into Everton. Don't necessarily mean get Barkley, I just mean that profile.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of things, I think we could improve creative-wise from wingers and improve instead of... listen, James Rodriguez is brilliant. I mean, I don't really necessarily think we should start moving away from that at this moment in time. I mean, we could also go, let's go get a youngster who's absolutely brilliant and can develop under him, but you've got to look at Ancelotti's mindset. He trusts Sigurdsson.
Yeah.
He just does.
He trusts Davis as well, ultimately. I mean, we can all sit here and give Davis as much stick as possible, but he's getting picked every week. Obviously, he's only getting picked because Allan's injured.
Out the two of Gomez and Davies, I'd keep Davies.
Yeah. No, I would as well, absolutely.
100%. And it's not even down to wages or not. I just think it's performance-wise. I just 100% would. I mean, I just think in terms of Everton, I think that priorities is certainly the Allan Doucouré, trying to get a player in the mix there and getting a Carlo Soler. I mean, if you could add Anguissa and Soler, I mean, that's a massive improvement for Everton's central midfielders. Yeah. I mean, you could even... I had one up there, Frank Kessie.
Yeah.
He was one that we were linked with in the summer, but his exploits at Milan have been brilliant this year, and I'd be surprised if they wanted to get rid of him. Yeah. Especially with a year left on his contract.
Yeah. Spot on. So in terms of wingers then, and maybe even leading into backup central forwards, given in the summer we're probably going to see not Luca Dean, please don't even think of that thought, Roy Keane leaving the club on a permanent deal. A backup centre forward surely is something that should be on our list in the summer. Certainly somebody to come in. It's difficult with centre forward, I always think, because it's so easy for us to sit here as fans, and me and you to sit here and say, we need a centre forward, so go out and sign a centre forward. But like you mentioned at the start of the team, how many good backup strikers are there in the Premier League? And realistically in football in this day and age, how many players are going to want to sign for the club knowing full well that they're the second best? We've already seen it with the Joshua Zirkzee rumours that have been going on so far. Even when TalkSport released that we were in talks with him, and I took that with basically a massive tub of salt, one of them big massive tubs that they used to get to grit the street. I just dived into that head first when I heard that rumour. But even with that rumour, but there's other clubs interested. I think Lazio were one of the clubs mentioned, and he prefers to go and play football. So it's very difficult in this day and age to bring in players that will agree to basically be second best. Now, Carlo could list it, and I know you could say, well, you could say that about any club, but they still have got quality on the bench. You could say that about Manchester City, and I suppose that's where Carlo comes in his managerial style, and he doesn't say you're going to be second best. He says you're going to fight with him for the number one spot, and whoever's playing, the best at the time will be the number one. But in football this day and age, it is ultimately difficult to bring in somebody as good as Dominic Calvert-Lewin to sit on the bench practically for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But we need better, don't we, going forward? We need better options, and ultimately on the wing, like you mentioned there, I know there's the Hammers argument we could sit here and have all day, but we could really do with a natural right winger who's got the pace and the energy and who's going to get up and down and ultimately allow Hammers maybe to move back into that central midfield role and control from there.
Yeah, well, if you do look at like the right wing role, it like where we just previously just mentioned, and I mean you were talking about a progressive runner from midfielder who's completely different to what James Rodriguez. I mean, if you brought in a right winger who does fit the sort of bill, you could then push Iwobi into that sort of three. You're starting to create options then.
Yeah.
So if like James Rodriguez out and you do want that sort of progressive player to go counter attack, I mean, Iwobi really suits that bill. Really, I think. Personally, I think Iwobi, that's what Iwobi was bought for.
Yeah.
He went bought for
being bought for being a 10, wasn't he? Ultimately.
Yeah.
And then we changed position, formation.
Yeah, and we're very, very lightweight in the wingers.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got two, Richarlison and Iwobi.
Yeah.
That's all we've got. Bernard's just not good enough.
Unlikely to go as well.
Yeah, and I think Gordon needs a loan.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Gordon go to Blackburn with Branthwaite. I think that'd be a very good loan for him, especially maybe not this January, but I know they're getting. I don't know what they're going to do with the Harvey Elliott loan. Maybe he stays or not, but I think he'd be a good one there for Blackburn.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So in terms of that, you've got two players. I mean, you potentially could look at two players coming in for Everton.
Yeah.
Who can play across the back. Who can play across the front three.
Yeah.
That is ultimately what you want, but it's very hard because when you say like it's specific to a centre forward, it's hard to sort of like get a player to sort of want to. I mean, you've got to sort of find a player who potentially will or want to replace Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
You need competition. You can't just all put your eggs in one basket in Calvert-Lewin. Yeah. So, I mean, did you think of any players or?
It's, like I said, it's difficult because you had the likes of Milik who was thrown about in the summer, which is now looks like he's going to go elsewhere. There's plenty of names that get thrown about. I actually think we need to adopt the Ben Godfrey style of signing with this one up front and bring in somebody that can play either wing and up front and somebody that's a little bit more versatile, because if you're bringing in a natural out-and-out centre forward, then the expectation is for that centre forward that they come in and play, and you're absolutely right, you need somebody that's good enough ultimately to take over Dom if Dom is in a bad run of form or if Dom picks up an injury. I don't just want another Cenk Tosun where you look at him and you go, one thing that frustrates me the most about transfers and rumours and stuff is when we're linked with players and you look at them and you go, well, yeah, but he's better than Cenk Tosun. Well, yeah, he might be better than Cenk Tosun, but this kind of Dr. Pepper, he is probably better than Cenk Tosun next to me in terms of finishing in the Premier League. Just because he's better than what we've got doesn't mean he's good enough to replace Dominic Calvert. We should be looking at players to come in as backup strikers and thinking, is he better than Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Or is he on that level as Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Is he as good? Not, is he better than Cenk Tosun? Because we already know Cenk Tosun isn't good enough, so that's just taking one lemon out and putting one lemon in and replacing an issue with the same issue. We need to be bringing in somebody that's nearer Dominic Calvert-Lewin's level, for me. And if we could bring somebody in that can play across the front three and be versatile in doing that, then I think it's much better than just an out-and-out centre forward that, ultimately, if he's not playing, is just going to be sitting on the bench earning a wage, isn't he, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a difficult one because you're trying to work out like what way could we go about this, and like what way will Everton sort of go about in sense of like how much money is available for Everton.
Yeah.
So will Everton go spend 50 million on a left winger or a right winger? Me personally, I doubt it.
Yeah.
unless we hit Champions League, I could probably see it happening. But to just be more like sensible and thought to go in the sense of looking at it, I mean, you're looking at two players probably caught my eye really, and it's a lad from Zenit St. Petersburg, Sardar Osman, who's been highly rated for like a good few years. He's an Iranian international. I mean, got 48 caps and he's 26. He's been in Russia for a while, but he's sort of developed into a very, very good player. I mean, he's not in a sense of the Dom type role where he'll hold up balls and things like that. He's very much like he'll sort of run channels, drop into deep, and sort of be like a little bit of a creative forward. So in terms of his numbers, you're just pulling up on a blunt thing. I mean, so far he's scored 11 goals this season out of 15, and he's got 5 assists.
Yeah. They
play a sort of 4-4-2 Zenit with I think I'll have a go at this, but Dzuba. I think he's been a Russian stalwart for years. I mean, he's a Champions League regular. I mean, he does very well in the Champions League, and in terms of his last 2 seasons, last full season he scored 17 goals and 8 assists. With his plus as well, with his sort of contract coming up next year, you could probably see it in terms of like a 20 million sort of area where you think, is that then a lot of money for Everton to go put into a player who could potentially just be on the bench and things like that, do you know what I mean? So then I started looking like Odsonne Edouard started appearing on me thing, and thought Odsonne Edouard would be a bit of a good signing for Everton. Year left on his contract. If Everton just want that specific role of just right centre forward to push Dom, then I think Edouard would be a good sign, especially in terms of transfer fee and that. Yeah. But then my main one that I just can't seem to get away from is Florian Thauvin. Said that right? From Marseille.
That was brilliant, that, mate.
I mean, Marseille. Yeah. I know he turned 28 in January, but everyone has like a big sort of worried about 28-year-olds and things like that. But still got his legs. I mean, he had a bad knee. I think it was a bad knee injury. I don't know whether it was a bad knee injury or something went wrong with his sort of rehab things, and he had to go get a bit of things. So he missed like a full season last year. But his numbers are just crazy. Like you sort of blink twice at his numbers, and I mean, he's come back and he's just absolutely hit the ground running again this year for Marseille. I think they're desperate to keep hold of him, but I think he's got more aspirations to the Marseille in terms of wages wise as well. I mean, Everton could comfortably cover the wages that he's after. He's a left-footed winger. He can play right across the front three. He's played striker as well, and just on a basic sort of stats wise, I mean, in terms of just goals, I mean, he's played 262 games for Marseille. He scored 84 goals and he's got 60 assists. That's just basic. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That to me,
that brings an awful lot to this Everton team, doesn't it? And all considering we're struggling for players that score other than the front two.
Well, in terms of thinking like your main two are Wolby and Richarlison, I mean, he brings so much more to what, like, especially from a right wing side. I mean, I'd love to see a Wolby come into like a 10 role and sort of see that, but so far this season, he scored 6 goals and 7 assists. I mean, if you're just looking at his numbers so far, I mean, his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG is 0.36. I mean, he's in the top 1 percentile in the league. He's up towards like what Mbappe's and things and that are doing. You know what I mean? His touches in the box, highly rated. His dribbling's 52%. He's a creative winger. Yeah. And in terms of sort of, in my opinion, I think he'd bring the extra creativity and the extra goals of what James Rodriguez is, but then you're adding a bit more pace and a bit more physicality to him.
Yeah.
So I think that and the Marcel one as free transfers, especially if you can get the big name, especially if you could get Delph and someone off the books and him taking over them wage, I think it'd be a brilliant signing.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, absolutely spot on, and again, Premier League experience, them numbers are just madness compared to what we have currently. We've spoke for a while about needing players that can come in and score goals and ultimately not be reliant on Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, and he's definitely one that can come in and do that.
I think when we look at it, like I said to you before, I mean, we have got a lot of experience. We've only got a lot of experience in certain specific areas.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a lot of experience in centre mid roles where I'm happy that Everton should go look at the 23-year-olds, your 24, you know what I mean? That sort of area, that's where Everton should be targeting that. Even with the right backs, that's where Everton should be targeting that area.
Yeah.
So you've got an asset there, but in terms of looking at the wingers, a free transfer at 28, and then you've got a Wolby and Richarlison. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, I
know a lot of people have sort of pulled the nose at it when I've brought it up, and they want them to go down the route without getting youngsters in and things. But it's not really the way forward sometimes. And I think, listen, he's not a one-trick pony where he's done this over the course since he got back to Marseille. I know he had like a bit of a non-starter at Newcastle, but you put a line in a Newcastle transfer, let's be honest. Yeah. So, regular French in around the France team. I mean, you've got the links with Takora, you've got the links with Luca Dean.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot of French players coming. You had Zuma here, So the French players will see a lot of, will be hearing a lot of Everton, and let's hope Luca Dean could sort of do like a bit of an agent role and throw it out there.
Agent Richie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But like, since he'd been. His last, like he had a bad injury the other year, but he's come back and scored 6 goals. I mean, especially into a Marseille team that are sort of financially not very well off at the moment and are struggling a little bit. I mean, they bought absolutely no one, and Villas-Boas was sort of contemplating leaving and things like that. But his 2 seasons before that, I mean, he scored 22 and 16 from a right wing role.
It's unbelievable, and it would inject so much to Everton. Phil says let's send Balassi down to his house. With him says pom-poms and skirts engaged. He's on his bike now, Balassi tassels blowing in the wind.
Eric, bike fights, Jesus.
He loves a bike, doesn't he, Balassi? He absolutely, every time I see a picture of him, he's on a bike or he's got some sort of tight clothing on. Maybe he just likes clothing.
Yeah.
Eric says, I think Richarlison wants to leave. I don't, mate. I think he's just an emotional player. Eugene thinks we need a good FA Cup run this year. Smig says 3 signings and we could be title challengers. Bailey, Zachariah and Max Aarons. You spoke about Max Aarons.
Do you know what like everyone's saying about this bit? The Bailey ship's gone. Like, Everton will not be...
They're also in a very good position, aren't they, at the moment?
Exactly. Like, you look at that and you think that ship has long sailed for Everton. Maybe in the summer if no one else wants to take him, but they're 3rd in the league.
Yeah.
They're like, I know they've had a little bit of a bad run recently, but they're in the mix as well as Everton. I mean, but in terms of who they're going up against, they're not going up against very, very top levels. I mean, apart from Bayern, Leipzig and Dortmund, that 4th place is anyone's.
Yeah.
So they're not getting rid of him, even in this January. And I wouldn't be surprised if sort of the top team stars have started going in for him.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Everton at the moment can't compete with that. That's what I'm saying. So they've got to sort of find these players, that free transfers where you think, oh, that's a good sign, and like the Thwaven, you got Thwaven, you Marcel. Like if them 2 players come in on free transfer and Everton have still got 60 million to spend on other players, then it's a very good thing. And listen, even another one I'd like to bring up just on the winger role. Yeah. One that I'd really be interested. I'd love Everton to go sign him and then go loan him again. Is Noni Madeki from PSV, English right winger, only 18, and he's setting that league alight. I mean, that's the sort of player I would like to go Everton to go buy. But I'd also like us to go sign that experience where you're not just giving an 18-year-old the first team role just to go and putting all the pressure on him. Yeah. I'd like to Everton to if you said to me you went and got Florian Thauvin from Marseille, and then you went and got Noni Madeki from PSV. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Madeki, I think, is very highly rated. I mean, he's in and around the England teams. I mean, this season he's had 15 appearances, scored 6 goals and 6 assists. I mean, assists aren't really one I really like to throw, but it's normally like the XG, like the XG and the expected assists that I really like, because that just shows me that he's creating chances, and he's creating for his team.
Yeah.
So he's he's sort of like he'd be sort of like that young Brands signing with. Listen, we've got the link with PSV as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be a very interesting thing if Everton haven't got I'd be surprised if Everton haven't got the radars on Madeki, or Madiki, or whatever I'd struggle with some names if I don't hear them first. But he's certainly, because listen, I know we bring up the academy. There's not a lot of wingers at Everton, especially in the academy wise, that will start pushing into the first teams. Yeah. I mean, there's just no one, is there?
No, there's no one, and like you said, that would be a good model going forward, is to bring in a younger player who, mightn't be ready to rip up the Premier League now, but you're bringing in somebody with experience as well. Not only can they learn off them, but they can learn off the players that are already at the club, and it's all about bringing more quality into the side. And look, we'll finish it up there then. Tom, massive thanks for coming on today, mate. Really appreciate it. Listen, I've just learnt about a whole load of names that I wasn't really aware of prior to this stream. I knew a couple of them obviously by name, but it's always good to sit down and talk about some players that maybe go under the radar, not just in terms of their ability, but also their current contract and the fact that they probably won't cost us an awful lot, and their clubs that they're at currently need a transfer or etc., rather than just the old, because we can talk about Max Aarons and Jack Grealish and Leon Bailey, etc., but it's how realistic those signings are. They're in the limelight because they're in the Premier League or they're in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe, but if Marcel Brands has shown anything since he's been at Everton, it's that, expect the unexpected. I never expected Ben Godfrey to be an Everton player. I remember being upset when we missed out on Gabriel. I remember being upset when we missed out on Tomori. I couldn't give an absolute dog's arse about those two now, because we've got Ben Godfrey, who's 23 years old, runs like Usain Bolt in second gear, and is built like an absolute mountain, and can play along the whole back line. So it's about bringing those players in that maybe go under the radar, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even like Crepton Diatta, we bang on about Crepton Diatta. I mean, he's playing in Belgium. He's very good talent, can go play left or right. I mean, that's the sort of profile you want to put your money into and invest in. You want to invest in these 23 under 23s or 25-year-olds, because they ultimately they could go bigger assets, and they develop, like Dean. Look at Dean, we bought him in that similar age bracket, things like that. But it's got to be the right player. Yeah, you can't just go get a load of 23-year-olds who are doing well in other leagues and just bring them all in. They'll do well. No, you've got to pick your spots. Yeah. So like a Crepton Diatta with a Thauvin, or even like when you look at it, I mean, you like we were talking about Bert, and they're just small little signings that will add to the squad. Yeah. So like, it's not like a sort of fancy name. You go Burton, but then when you look at it as a long period of time, when Dean got injured, we were all worrying, like we had no one. Yeah. Like they weren't going to hand it to him and Nkunku really. So, but listen, if you look at others, I mean, I forgot to bring one up. I mean, I think this could be an absolute steal of a signing. And I mean, he struggled with injury over the last few seasons, but it sort of stood out really for me. I mean, his contract's up at the end of next season, and Ancelotti actually signed him at Bayern Munich. It's Corentin Tolisso. I forgot to bring him up for centre-mid. I mean, that to me just seems like a very James Rodriguez style signing, where his contract, I mean, his future at Bayern Munich's completely up in the air. I mean, I don't necessarily think Bayern want to keep him, and I think at 26, I mean, he's had a terrible last few seasons of injuries, but he's still at that age where you think he's still got a lot of football to him, and I think this year he slowly got away from that. Yeah. And I mean, he'd certainly be one who could do the Decore sort of playmaker. He can do the Allen. He's an absolute all-round beast of a player.
And he's got the Ancelotti link.
Exactly, and I don't actually think a lot of big teams will go for him.
Yeah.
Just due to the fact of the injury sides and things like that, and I think Everton have got to take risks like that. I mean, world class talent.
Yeah. World
class. I mean, if you can get him playing, then it'd be an absolute no-brainer.
There you go. Spot on, mate. Spot on. And like you said, with that Ancelotti link, there's always that wanting to come and play under Carlo again, like we've seen with Alan, like we've seen with James, and like we've seen with about 1,700 other players that seem to want to come to play for Everton. Kadira being one of them, Isco, etc.
Yeah, I never underestimate that Ancelotti link.
Yeah, exactly.
He's such a big name in the footballing world, and listen, it's not just about like, oh yeah, it's Ancelotti. No, he'll know quite a lot of agents, he'll have acquired a lot of links to a lot of high-profile teams and things like that. And listen, he got James Rodriguez to Everton.
There you go. And that's as good of a way to end the stream as any, that one. I'm still baffled by that, mate, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm absolutely still baffled by that.
We had banners up in Miami and
New York.
I mean, it's just nuts.
It's crazy. Little old Everton, eh? Megan says, thank you, guys. Sammy says, well done, lads. Cheers. Women says, take care, guys. Though Cam's off on one here. Cornelia says, Bailey Addens. Noah says, I'm really enjoying your content, boys. Keep it up. Cheers. Reading says, see about the toffee. See you on Wednesday, and good luck to the under-23s today against Liverpool. You're spot on. Everyone loves Everton in the show.
Lappy on live YouTube.
Yeah, I think Everton tweeted out earlier that it's on YouTube, on the official YouTube.
It's all back them then.
Yeah,
I'll be watching that myself.
Definitely go the mini derby, as they call it. Usually a feisty one.
I always promote. I'd love every Everton fan to start watching the academy and all that. You've got to.
Definitely.
You gotta, even the women's team the other night, they played really well. The Everton's winning team. So I think you've just got to support them. And
that's it.
Listen, you'll start learning more about your young lads who are coming up in the thing. So yeah,
that's it. I need to look out for them. That's it. Yeah. Spot on.
Don't tell me Ellis Sims needs to be first team player. Like, that one.
Hey, that's one for another conversation. Noah says, how long do you think Carlo will stay at Everton for? A long time, mate. And Phil says, cheers, beer for Cam and wine for Tom and Balassi. There you go. Tom, anything to say before we finish up?
I'm a Guinness man, really, Phil. So if you want to wine and dine me on the Guinness, mate, then no problem.
What's Balassi having, though?
He looks like a pina colada. There's like a little straw in his little
martini.
Yeah. Let's leave it at that.
Definitely. Megan says, especially the women's team and Team USA is right. Well, a big thanks to everybody for joining us. Look, I'm sorry that we couldn't get into all of the live comments. There was absolutely loads of them. So a big thank you. I really do appreciate all of the support. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. That only takes a second. We'll be back on Wednesday with another live stream, and then of course we'll have all of the pre-game content to the Sheffield Wednesday Cup game next weekend. But we'll be back on Wednesday. Big thanks for watching. Massive thanks to Tom, as always, for joining us. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, maybe let's go and have a little look at some of those names that Tom's kindly given to us and look to take us to that next level, which, who knows, maybe Roy Keane will be sitting there next year saying, I've hit me words.
Should we sing it out? Go on, we're gonna win.
just to wind people up. I've already seen. I've been getting caught up in the comments. I have been reading every single one of them. There was a couple of Liverpool fans at some point. You aren't going to win the league. What are you talking about? Just get them on the bait, mate. If I could put the little fishing emoji in, it's excellent.
Sweat pouring.
That's
pouring. It. Listen, 50 points, mate. Gone, evaporated. Ta-da. Nuts.
In a space of 12 months under Carlo Ancelotti. That's what he does. Massive thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon.
Gonna win the list.
Oh, yes, we certainly are. Imagine